Hello and welcome to this edition of Games and Goals on RTB News. I'm Matt Goodrick here in London and this is Reuters. Coming up on the programme. Flying the blue flag at the top of the Premier League, but can Chelsea stay there as we enter the season's busiest period? The transfer window is just around the corner. We'll ask who's on the move and who needs to be splashing the cash. And Bayern hand Leipzig a reality check to sit top of the Bundesliga heading into the winter break. Yes, hello there. Chelsea have the chance to set a new club record of 12 consecutive league wins if they beat a Bournemouth this weekend. Antonio Conte's side are top of the Premier League table as they prepare for 3 games in 10 days. Chelsea are 6 points ahead of nearest challengers Liverpool and have only conceded 2 goals since going on this impressive winning run. Last week's victory against Crystal Palace came exactly a year since Jose Mourinho was sacked, so it's been quite a turnaround in West London. Our reporter Oliver Regan has been down to the ground to look at what's next for Chelsea.
What a difference a year makes. Just 12 months ago, Chelsea had sacked Jose Mourinho after a terrible start to the season. This year, well, 11 straight wins under Antonio Conte means that the Blues top the Premier League by 6 points. And so pleased has Conte been with his men that he's given them some time off ahead of a busy festive schedule. And the players have certainly taken advantage, being spotted at Disneyland Paris, the USA, even Brazil. Now, next up for the league leaders here at Stamford Bridge is Bournemouth on Boxing Day. The Cherries are mid-table, but they did beat Chelsea here last season. And the league leaders will have to do without 2 of their star men. Diego Costa, the Premier League's top goal scorer, and their midfield dynamo, N'Golo Kante. They're both suspended for this match. It does give some of the others in the squad a chance to impress as Chelsea go for a 12th consecutive win, just one off Arsenal's all-time Premier League record. And if they were to beat that record, what a perfect end to the year.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll join him this week to look ahead to a busy period for the Premier League and discuss all the other main football talking points is Reuters football correspondent Adam Reed and, as ever, Reuters senior sports analyst Nigel Stevenson. Adam, Chelsea, 11 wins in a row, not bad at all. Just thinking specifically about the manager who we saw there, Mr. Conte. How impressive that he's done this in his first season when you consider that the likes of Guardiola, Mourinho haven't had the easiest of times, have they?
Absolutely, Matt. And I think it's important to point out that now Conte has got to this stage that he's actually had the best start of any manager in his first season managing in the Premier League. Now, all of those managers are Chelsea managers, the top 5, a stat that I heard today. Obviously, discounting Sir Alex Ferguson, who was obviously having very good starts by himself. But obviously, he's done very, very well, especially that he was under such pressure before they went on this run, and they didn't even think he'd last until Christmas. Now, it's been incredible their turnaround and their manner of doing it. I think we've mentioned before on the show an Italian manager winning 1-0. And it is an impressive way of doing things, and at the moment you can't see it stopping.
Yeah, of course, detractors Nigel Stevenson will say, well, they're not in Europe. It's going to be easy with a squad like that, winning every week.
You could say that obviously, I mean, don't forget he didn't have any time with them before the season, not proper time, because he was too busy managing Italy. So, and we pointed that out some time ago, saying, well, that's actually going to be a pretty tough job, landing in the Premier League with a bunch of very unperforming players. I mean, it does make you wonder what was going on last season at Chelsea. It really does. I mean, if you're earning that much money and you can't actually be bothered to try, and there's all this unrest and shenanigans going on behind the scenes, it really does make you wonder. But he's got it to click, and he's got the time with them every week to make them, even when he changes the system, to say, well, let's work on that. They'll be in Europe next year, there's no doubt about it. So he's making hay while the sun shines, and very impressive too. Yeah,
so they've got 3 games in 10 days, Adam Reed. For the first one against Bournemouth, Diego Costa will be missing. He's been so key, hasn't he, of late. How much will they miss him, starting with this game that we can see against Bournemouth?
Well, they've got. I mean, this run against Bournemouth, then it's Stoke, and then it's probably the one that they're going to really target as one they should win as well against Tottenham. Costa has been incredible the way that he's come back from last season. He looked like an absolute spent force last year. It took a long time to even get going. Even this season, there was signs of unrest at the beginning. He was asking to be subbed, and then Conte told him to carry on playing. Since then, he has been brilliant, and it's only that it's unfortunate that he's had this 4 bookings, and eventually, inevitably, he was going to pick up a 5th. But he was on 4 bookings for a long time, so even his behaviour on the pitch, the way he's conducted himself, it has changed as well. No messing about with other players and referees. So he'll be a big miss. Batshuayi coming in, a different sort of force, maybe, but that's why players need to take their chances.
The last 3 games, they've won 1-0, and 2 of them it's been Costa who scored.
So they might miss it. We'll see.
Well, you'd think so.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it?
OK, well, as we've seen, Liverpool are the side closest to Chelsea in the table after a dramatic late win against Everton lifted them back into second place ahead of Manchester City. They were made to work very hard indeed by their local rivals for the 3 points, though. Let's just remind ourselves of how they secured bragging rights. Yeah, late winner for Liverpool against Everton. Another clean sheet for Liverpool. That's now 2 in a row. Do you think if Liverpool are to have long-term success this season, it is all about keeping tight at the back?
Yeah, they've got to figure out which goalkeeper they want to have as well, because that is a mess waiting to happen, and there are seeds of unrest in there because Klopp has bought in his goalkeeper and then publicly taken him off because he wasn't playing very well, and then there's been a spat about it. And brings in a Belgian goalkeeper. I mean, so it's a real mess. I think if he can sort out the defence, the goals, and I think you're going to talk about this in a minute, the goals seem to be coming from everywhere now, which is brilliant. It just, you sort out that defence, they're on a really good roll at the moment.
Of course, the star man of the whole squad, you probably say, is Philippe Coutinho. They've had to do without him in the last few games. How have they coped, do you think, Adam?
I think reasonably well. I mean, they've been still scoring goals. There was 3 at Bournemouth, and then there was 2 against West Ham, and a plucky sort of one against Everton. But the goals at Liverpool have been shared around this season. You can really see here, that's not even all of them. I think the goal scorers, they're the top scorers in the Premier League. So they've managed to keep that momentum going. And since Coutinho's been out, someone like Adam Lallana, 2 goals at Middlesbrough, really stepped up. So there have been people stepping up in different stages. And I think if they can continue that, Coutinho could be back for the New Year's Eve game against Man City, and Liverpool, the goals could still keep coming.
And there's a little chap called Sturridge not mentioned.
Yeah,
who
who's
can come in.
Scored in the league. Yeah,
No.
incredible. And keeps hitting the post and doing everything but score. Looking very fresh when he comes on.
Yeah.
So Nigel, we've seen that they're scoring loads of goals. They're starting to tighten up at the back. So they're going to push for the title in the new year, aren't they?
Well, yes, if he can keep them going, again, nothing to worry about in terms of Europe. So if they keep going on this run, Coutinho comes back, there's absolutely no reason not. The only reason you wouldn't say that they might do it is if Chelsea just keep going, because then they're uncatchable. But Liverpool, they're in the mix.
Chelsea have got to come to Anfield as well. So there's a chance there. So look at the lead being 6. That's a 6-pointer as you look at it.
Yeah, that will be indeed a very key game in 2017. OK, time for a short break here on Games and Goals, but plenty still to come after the break. We'll look ahead to the January transfer window and discuss who might be on the move, with the Chinese Super League ready to splash the cash. You're watching Games and Goals on RTB News. Some Premier League sides face 3 games in a little more than 7 days, starting from Monday. One side hoping for a change in fortune will be Arsenal. They kick off their festive fixtures at home to West Brom. Nigel's side looking to bounce back from successive defeats. Other standout games on Monday: champions Leicester, just 3 points off the relegation places, of course, host Everton. Manchester United will be looking to make it 4 league wins in a row at home to Sunderland. City, they're away at bottom of the table Hull. Then on Tuesday it's Liverpool, who we've already spoken about, v Stoke. Then Southampton host Spurs on Wednesday. Adam Reed, let's speak about Arsenal. You know, November went all right, and suddenly December's not going too well. So this mid-season malaise that seems to happen every year is finally coming. And Arsenal's critics are simply saying, look, Wenger side's purely have a soft centre, and they will get beaten at some time when the going gets tough.
Well, it's incredible, isn't it? Because it was only a couple of games ago they won 5-1 at West Ham, and everyone thought, OK, this time they've got it. And now Ozil was being lauded then, and now he's being lambasted because he doesn't do enough. It doesn't get back, doesn't jump with Ashley Williams at corners, and it does seem to be a scapegoat. It does seem to be everything seems to have to fall apart for Arsenal, and I don't think that's the case. I think they've had a tough couple of games. They went away to Man City and lost. Now, why is that such a? It's not a great result after taking the lead, and the way they played in the second half isn't great. But I believe that Arsenal will pick up again over Christmas. I don't necessarily think the West Brom game is a terrible one for them, because they have to approach it in a different way.
Nigel Stevenson, I think we can look at the 3 games coming up, and
West Brom, Crystal Palace and Bournemouth.
They're probably happy with that, aren't they?
Well, Bournemouth, presumably Jack Wilshere won't be allowed to play, which weakens them a little bit. They take that. They'll take 9 points from those 3, and I suspect they will. And then suddenly they're back on track again. I don't think they've got an awful lot to worry about. There's always that worry with Arsenal, though, is that the silky stuff suddenly does seem to sort of drop out, and I think it's almost to do with some of the fans. The expectations for Arsenal fans are so high, and I think we've talked about this before. The minute they lose one game, the season's over. Wenger needs to be sacked. Ozil and Sanchez are going to go and play in China, and they think, "Gosh, they're crying into their prawn sandwiches. It's ridiculous."
OK, so that's Arsenal dealt with. Let's speak about another side who are going into the Christmas period kind of unsure of what's going to happen next. Leicester City, 3 points off the relegation places. They've got Mr Vardy suspended now for 3 games. How much will they miss him?
I think a lot. I think just because everything he was bringing to the side, I don't think he wasn't scoring many goals until that hat-trick at Manchester City, but he looked like he still had the same hunger and energy. So that will be missing. Ajoa has come in, and Okazaki can come in, and Slimani, they might have to change their style of play a little bit. But Damari Gray helped a lot in the comeback against Stoke, and I think if he is going to come on at this time and it's time to shine, he can put balls in, and maybe Slimani, and they can get through this tricky period, because they do need some points, otherwise they'll be dragged right into stuff.
I'd say the fact that they got to 2-2 against Stoke with 10 men is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So I think maybe the heart is
back.
Really
They're all
there.
kissing the badge and everything.
Yeah. They'll kick on from there. We'll have to wait and see. Now, the transfer window doesn't open for another week or so, but already clubs seem to be making their move in an effort to strengthen squads. Manchester United are reportedly in talks to sign highly rated Sweden defender Victor Lindelof. Now, he currently plays his club football at Benfica and helped them to the Premier League title last season. He's been given a re-endorsement by former international teammate and current United player Zlatan Ibrahimovic. It's thought he'll cost around $47 million to bring to Old Trafford. Well, let's take a look at how Lindelof, his stats stack up in more detail. He's 22 years old, has 11 caps for Sweden, scoring once in that time. He signed for Benfica at 17 before making his debut 2 years later. He already has an international honour as well, helping Sweden to win last year's Under-21 European Championship. And his composed and calm style of play for club and country has earned him the nickname of the Iceman. So, Adam Reid, do United need the Iceman at Old Trafford?
Well, whether the Iceman cometh or not, I'm not entirely sure. But, I mean, they've got options at the back. They've got Marcus Rojo, Chris Smalling, Phil Jones, Bally's come back. He's been the one, the standout one. So I think he's going to be the guy that would be playing with Lindelof. Whether or not Mourinho, that means Mourinho doesn't fancy any of the other 3 long-term at centre-back, I'm not entirely sure. But you'd think that they need someone. Ibrahimovic is doing great things up front, but do they need another striker maybe? Wayne Rooney doesn't seem like he wants to play there. Martial, Mourinho doesn't fancy him there, so that would be an area that I would target, because Zlatan, as well as he's doing, you'd think even as good as he is, he might burn out.
United on a bit of a run now, 3 wins in a row, unbeaten in 8. What do you think United fans will be hoping for in 2017?
I think they just want it to settle down a bit and get their heart back in their side, and that if they do get another defender, he's got to decide what his back line looks like. He settles that down, as Adam just said, up front's looking okay. I just think Man United fans want to feel that their side belongs to them and has the heart to actually compete, because at the moment I suspect going to Old Trafford is not a particularly scary place, because the team aren't really getting the fans behind them, and it's not quite working. It's getting there, and if you can just get that sort of stability going, then I think the fans will get behind. I mean, the other thing is that Mourinho's now saying, "Oh, I want to extend my 3-year."
It's loving life, isn't it?
Loving life. That's all changed.
You might move out that hotel soon.
Yeah, but it looks like he's just about getting it sorted. They're not going to win anything this year, but he's always said it would take him 2 years. I think it might take him a bit more, but there's an awful lot of change that's been going on there, and if he can settle it down and get them at least functioning properly and looking like there's a bit of spontaneity which they've been missing, then I think they'll be on the right track.
OK, well, Chelsea boss Antonio Conte is almost resigned to losing Brazilian forward Oscar to the Chinese Super League in January and has warned against ballooning transfer fees coming from Asia. Oscar looks set to follow former Chelsea boss Andre Villas-Boas to Shanghai for a fee of more than $60 million.
The Chinese market is a danger for all teams in the world, not only for Chelsea. But I think that we must be concentrated on our work. Don't think that in China there are a lot of money and they can arrive to take the players.
The big European leagues are scared by the CSL, aren't they? Does Conte have a point?
I think he's absolutely got a point. I think the fact that the way that China are planting all these seeds amongst players, predominantly South American players at the moment, not many European players going there, but I think they're a menace at the moment. I think that the fact that all this is tempting players like Oscar, who's 25, should be coming to the prime of his career, and he's going over to the Chinese Super League for the money, essentially. I mean, you don't even have to pretend that it's not, because it's not. There's no credibility there. So I think it's definitely a menace.
And what does Oscar's move kind of represent if he does indeed go, do you think? Is this just another Brazilian, or is this significant in terms of his age?
I think the point is the age, yes, because also, as Adam says, that he should be playing in the Premier League still. You forget that he's 25, so he's clearly doing it for the money. I don't think he's going to get much satisfaction out there. So I don't quite understand why he's going, because he could wait for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years and still go. Because what fun is he going to have in a league that clearly, the Americans threw money at soccer for quite some time, over 2 or 3 periods, and it's
decades,
not quite getting there yet. The Chinese are now doing it. I don't see the Chinese national side suddenly getting into the World Cup and winning it, which is what they want.
It's predominantly still Chinese players out there as well. They can have a smattering of all these extra foreign players, but it's the standard is supposedly not very, very good. So it is just for the money.
A bit baffling, maybe, just for the money, as Adam Reed says. OK, time for a short break now on Games and Goals, but plenty still to come on the show as we head to the Bundesliga, where Leipzig are shown how it's done by a brutal Bayern display. You're watching Games and Goals on RTB News. Now, Bayern Munich will head into the German winter break at top of the Bundesliga after overcoming their nearest rivals with ease. Leipzig arrived at the Allianz Arena having lost just once all season, despite being newly promoted. But Bayern proved too strong with a dominant first-half display.
The established order against the Bundesliga's new upstarts. But it was Bayern's experience which counted for more against Leipzig in Munich. Thiago Alcantara getting the home side off to a flying start after just 17 minutes. The game was all over within half an hour. First, Xavi Alonso finished off a sweeping Bayern move. And then, minutes later, Leipzig were down to 10 men after Philipp Lahm was hacked down by Emil Forsberg, whose wry smile suggested he knew he deserved his red card. It was 3 before half-time. Douglas Costa brought down, and Robert Lewandowski striking home for his 12th league goal of the season. Bayern moved 3 points clear of Leipzig at the top of the table. All German clubs playing on Wednesday paid tribute to the victims of the Berlin truck attack. None more so than at Hertha, where the side did their best to lift a city in mourning. And what a display they put on against Darmstadt. The goal of the night coming from Marvin Plattenhardt. It looked even better in slow motion. Former Chelsea forward Salomon Kalou headed home number 2, as Hertha gave their fans a brief respite after recent events. Hertha up to 3rd. Also on Wednesday, Hoffenheim were held at home to Werder Bremen. The hosts opened the scoring with a scrappy goal from Sandro Wagner. But late on, Serge Gnabry found the net for the away side, and Hoffenheim miss out on the chance to join Hertha in the Champions League places.
Nigel Stevenson, what do we make of this 3-0 win for Bayern then? Does it just mean that Leipzig probably have more to do than they thought of going into the game?
I think I'd actually put it the other way around. I'd say Bayern Munich are now breathing a sigh of relief because they haven't been performing particularly well. They only got to second place in their Champions League group, and it's not quite been firing on all cylinders. So the fact that they've done what they needed to do, put Leipzig in their place, means that they can then start 2017 on a very much more upward note. Leipzig couldn't care less. You know, they've been promoted. They're the new boys on the block. Their financial status is slightly different from everybody else, so they're not liked, and they're the upstarts. So they don't care one jot. They'll just carry on doing their thing. And if they end up second in the Bundesliga this season, they're in the Champions League. So nothing to lose.
I think we've said over the last couple of years that the Bundesliga has become a bit stale, a bit dull. So how much is Leipzig's emergence kind of freshens things up a bit, Adam?
Absolutely. I mean, we saw the same in the Premier League last year with Leicester taking it on as they did. It breathed new life into that, and everyone thought that the Premier League was the best product and we'd seen everything. But now, looking at the table, Leipzig are up there, they're right in the middle of much more established teams. You look at a team like Borussia Dortmund finding it difficult this year with their Champions League commitments there. So yeah, there's a bit more interest in it, and it is a good story still with Leipzig because the way that they've come about and their model, and so it gets people having an opinion about it at least.
What do you think these two clubs are hoping for in the new year, Nigel?
To stay in those two positions, I would think. Bayern expect to win, and probably will. And if Leipzig can hold on, that would be not quite as good as Leicester last year, but not bad, because they would have beaten everybody else bar, the kings of German football, and they're kind of difficult to topple, I would think.
Yeah. A very impressive story indeed. Right, we're going to move on because there's a controversy ahead of the African Cup of Nations, which is due to begin in January, with 7 Cameroon players, including Liverpool's Joel Matip, saying they don't want to be included in the squad to play. The defender has cited a bad experience under the previous coaching staff, which has already led to him not featuring for his country since the 2014 World Cup. However, it may not simply be a case that Matip and co are available for their clubs, as the Cameroon Association could still write to FIFA asking the players are suspended. OK, time to bring you up to date with the other sports stories making headlines this week. And two-time Wimbledon champion Petra Kvitova says she's lucky to be alive after being attacked with a knife by an intruder at her home in Czech Republic. Kvitova's spokesperson also revealed she'll be out of action for at least 6 months following surgery on her left hand, although the injuries aren't expected to be career-threatening. Nico Rosberg capped off a memorable 2016 with another award, the ADAC's Racing Driver of the Year. He won the Formula One title in November, of course, and then announced his retirement just days later. Rosberg received the trophy from his dad, Keke, who also won the F1 driver's title in 1982. Speaking in Dubai this week, Mo Farah says he's setting his sights on the marathon once he retires from track racing after next year's World Championships in London. Farah is a back-to-back 5,000 and 10,000 metre Olympic champion. He says he wants to focus on improving on his previous most high-profile marathon appearance. That was in London in 2014, which was 6 minutes off world record pace. And former world champion Bernard Hopkins' long and illustrious career ended in a brutal defeat when the light heavyweight was knocked out of the ring in the 8th round of his final fight. A month short of his 52nd birthday, Hopkins lost by a technical knockout to fellow American Joe Smith Jr. in Los Angeles. Well, that's just about it for this week's show, but do join us next time when we'll bring you Games and Goals Review of the Year show. We'll look back on the big footballing stories of 2016, including, of course, Leicester City's Premier League miracle. I'll be joined by a former Arsenal winger, Perry Groves. Right, that's it for this edition of Games and Goals. My thanks to Adam and to Nigel for their contributions this week. I'm Matt Goodrick, signing off from the Reuters studio here in London. Goodbye.